Ethan had never seen anything like it. A sleek silver spaceship glided down to the small docking bay of the space station, its engines softly humming as it landed. It wasn't unusual for ships to come and go, but this one stood out. It was larger than most, and its design was nothing like the typical ships that traveled through the galaxy. As the door to the spaceship opened, Ethan squinted against the bright light that spilled from inside. A figure stepped out, a woman who was unlike anyone he'd ever seen before. Her skin shimmered like polished metal, reflecting the lights of the station. She had delicate, almost ethereal features, her eyes large and bright with an intelligent gaze. Ethan could tell immediately she wasn't human. She was something else entirely, an alien. "Hello?" Ethan called out, his voice carrying over the quiet hum of the station. The alien woman turned toward him, her expression curious but not unfriendly. "I am Lyra," she said, her voice melodic and calm. "I've heard of your station and the things humans enjoy doing. I wish to observe." Ethan smiled, feeling a mix of surprise and curiosity. "I'm Ethan. You've come to the right place. There's always something happening here." Lyra looked around the station with wide eyes. She had likely never seen anything like it. The station was a mix of human technology and oddities from all corners of the galaxy. People from all different species roamed the halls, some shopping, others enjoying simple activities like eating or chatting. Humans were known for their strange hobbies, and this place was a hub for the unusual. Lyra's gaze settled on a small section of the station, where people were gathered around a giant screen. Some were holding controllers, others were cheering and laughing. "What is this?" she asked, her voice full of intrigue. Ethan followed her gaze and grinned. "That's a video game tournament. It's one of our most popular pastimes. Humans love these games. They're fun and competitive. Do you want to try?" Lyra raised an eyebrow, clearly puzzled. "You do this for fun?" "Yeah, it's all for fun. You'd be surprised how engaging it is. It's a simple game, but the challenge is addicting." Lyra paused for a moment, her eyes scanning the group of people who were laughing and shouting at the screen. "It doesn't seem important. Why do you humans enjoy such things?" Ethan chuckled, understanding her confusion. He had seen this. Before, alien visitors often found human pastimes strange, even nonsensical. But that was the beauty of it. What humans found enjoyable, others often couldn't understand. "Not everything has to be important," Ethan said with a smile. "Sometimes it's just about having fun, letting go, and not worrying about being perfect." Lyra stood quietly for a moment, her gaze still locked on the group. "I do not understand. I am curious. I want to try." Ethan's eyes lit up. "All right, let's go then. I'll show you the ropes." He led her over to one of the gaming stations. The setup was simple: a screen, 2 controllers, and a game that anyone could pick up quickly. He showed her how to hold the controller and explain the basic rules. Lyra's fingers hovered over the buttons as she carefully studied the screen. "Don't worry about making mistakes," Ethan added. "It's all part of the fun." Lyra's first attempt was slow and unsure. She hesitated at each decision, unsure of which button to press. The character on the screen didn't move the way she wanted. It too, and soon enough the game ended in failure. The others in the area cheered for the winner, and Lyra stood still for a moment, looking at the screen in silent contemplation. "I lost," she said, her voice tinged with frustration. She wasn't used to losing. Her species valued efficiency. And control and being challenged by something as simple as a game didn't sit well with her. Ethan, sensing her discomfort, grinned. "It's okay. You'll get the hang of it. It's all about learning and having fun." "I do not understand," Lyra said again, but this time there was something different in her tone. It wasn't confusion. It was curiosity. "Why? Is this so entertaining?" "Well, it's not about being perfect," Ethan explained. "It's about the challenge, the thrill of trying and failing and getting better. For humans, that's where the fun is." Lyra's eyes narrowed as she considered his words. She had never thought of failure as something enjoyable. To her, it was something to avoid at all costs. But here, In this strange human world, failure didn't seem like the end. It was just part of the game. I wish to try again, Lyra said. Her voice more determined this time. Ethan laughed.
That's the spirit.
Let's see what you've got. Lyra took a deep breath, her fingers firmly gripping the controller once again. The game on the screen seemed a little less mysterious now, but still, it was far from anything she had ever encountered. The idea of using her hands to control a character on a screen felt strange, but something about it intrigued her. Ethan sat beside her, watching her every move closely. All right, Lyra, this time just go with the flow. Don't overthink it. Lyra nodded, her concentration returning to the screen. The character she controlled this time was a warrior, a brave figure tasked with navigating a series of challenges. She didn't fully understand the concept, but she understood the need to move and respond to the obstacles ahead. Her first move was hesitant, but soon she was trying to figure out how to control the warrior to fight the enemies that popped up on the screen at first. The game felt awkward. Lyra had been taught her entire life to focus on logic and efficiency, not on simple play. She couldn't help but compare the game to the training programs from her own species systems designed to enhance intelligence and strengthen skills. But in this moment, the game was different. It wasn't about winning. It was about the joy of playing. Ethan's voice broke her focus for a moment. It's okay if you make a mistake. Just keep going. Lyra's character was now surrounded by enemies on screen. She pressed the wrong button, causing her character to fall. I failed again, she muttered, frustration growing in her voice. Ethan smiled, not at all upset. You didn't fail? You're learning. It's part of the process. Lyra looked at him with a confused expression. She had never been taught that failure was acceptable. In her world, failure meant you weren't good enough, and there was no room for anything less than perfection. But here in this strange human space, there seemed to be a different rule. She took another deep breath and tried again. This time she focused less on the perfection of the moves and more on the rhythm of the game. Lyra let go of her inner critic, allowing herself to make mistakes without the usual feeling of failure. Slowly but surely, she began to improve. Her character fought back against the enemies, jumping over obstacles and dodging attacks. It wasn't perfect, but it was fun. The simple joy of playing began to sink in. Ethan noticed the change in her. You're doing great, Lyra. You're getting the hang of it. A small smile appeared on her face. She had never realized how engaging something so simple could be. The thrill of moving forward in the game, of figuring out how to overcome the next challenge, was something she hadn't expected. It was different from anything she had known. I never thought I would enjoy this, she admitted quietly, her eyes still locked on the screen. But it is ... interesting. Ethan grinned. Told you? It's not about being the best. It's about having fun along the way. Winning isn't everything. Lyra paused the game and looked at him deep in thought. But if winning isn't important, then why do humans compete so much? Ethan leaned back in his chair, thinking carefully before answering. Humans like to compete because it brings out our best. It's not always about beating others. It's about pushing ourselves. To grow, sometimes we compete to learn something new. Other times, to just enjoy the process. It's all part of how we experience life. Lyra nodded slowly, her thoughts turning over his words. She had never considered that before. Her people competed only to be the best, to prove their superiority. But here, humans competed to improve themselves, to have fun, and to connect with others. It was a strange but fascinating idea. Can we play again? Lyra asked, her voice eager now. I want to try again, Asu. Ethan's smile widened. Of course, but this time, let's change the game up a bit. Lyra watched as Ethan navigated the screen to pick a different game. This one was a puzzle game, a test of logic and strategy. She raised an eyebrow at him. Are you sure I can handle this? Trust me, Ethan said. You're good at this. I've seen your focus. Just apply the same strategy as before. Lyra wasn't sure what to expect. The new game was less about action and more about thinking. She studied the board on the screen, seeing pieces that needed to be arranged in a particular order. At first, she felt overwhelmed, but she reminded herself to take things step by step. With Ethan's encouragement, she started moving the pieces into place. Feeling the satisfaction of each one she correctly aligned. The hours passed, and Lyra was lost in the game, her frustration from earlier slowly replaced with a quiet sense of accomplishment. She didn't mind that she wasn't the best. She didn't even care that she wasn't winning every time. The process of playing, of challenging herself, was the part she enjoyed the most. When she finally took a break, Ethan noticed the change in her. Lyra was no longer the alien woman who had walked into the station with doubts and skepticism. She had become someone who enjoyed the simple act of playing, someone who understood the value of failure and fun. That was better, Lyra admitted, wiping a small amount of sweat from her brow. I think I understand now. Ethan grinned. I knew you would. Sometimes it just takes a little time. Lyra nodded thoughtfully, feeling something she hadn't expected. Freedom. The freedom to play, to fail, and to enjoy the process. It was new, exciting, and something she never would have experienced had she not given it a chance. Thank you, Ethan, she said, looking at him with genuine gratitude. This is more than just a game. Ethan smiled. I'm glad you think so. Lyra could hardly believe how much she had changed in the short time since arriving at the station. The alien woman who had once looked at human activities with confusion and judgment was now eagerly awaiting her next gaming session. Each day she visited Ethan's station to try a new game or to revisit her favorites. But today she felt something different in the air. There was a sense of excitement she hadn't experienced before. I'm ready for something new, Lyra said, sitting down next to Ethan, her voice filled with determination. Ethan looked up from the console, surprised by the fire in her eyes. You've really gotten into this, huh? Lyra nodded. Yes, I want to be better. I need to be better. Ethan grinned. All right then, how about a bit of a challenge? He navigated through the options on the screen, selecting a new game. This one was more intense, filled with high-speed races and unexpected obstacles. The goal was to race through the tracks, avoiding crashes and using quick reflexes to stay ahead. Ethan explained the rules to Lyra, watching her face for any signs of hesitation. At first, Lyra seemed unsure. It's fast. I might fail. Ethan laughed. That's the point. Don't worry. Just try to keep up. Lyra hesitated for a moment, but then her competitive spirit kicked in. She had learned to enjoy the rush of playing, and now she wanted to see how far she could push herself. As the game started, she took control of the racing vehicle. Her hands gripped the controller tightly as the speedometer on the screen soared. The race was challenging. Lyra struggled to control the vehicle as it zoomed down the track, dodging obstacles at every turn. She crashed into walls a few times, sending the vehicle spiraling out of control. Her heart raced as the timer ticked down. Ethan cheered her on, not bothered by her mistakes. That's it. Keep going. You're getting the hang of it. Lyra's eyes narrowed as she focused on the screen. This time, when an obstacle appeared, she reacted faster, steering the vehicle away with more precision. She didn't just want to finish the race, she wanted to win. The adrenaline surged through her, and for the first time, she felt what humans often described as the thrill of competition. As the race continued, Lyra's skills improved. She was still far from perfect, but she was making progress. Could see the change in her. Her earlier frustration was gone, replaced by a deep sense of focus. The game had become more than just a pastime to her. It had become a challenge, a way to prove something to herself. The race ended, and Lyra let out a breath she didn't realize she had been holding. Her hands were still gripped around the controller, but she wasn't looking at the screen. Instead, she was reflecting on what had just happened. I didn't win, Lyra said softly, her voice a mix of disappointment and determination. Ethan sat back in his chair, smiling. You did awesome. The goal isn't always to win. It's about how you play the game, how you handle the ups and downs. Lyra turned to look at him, her thoughts turning over his words. She had always been taught that winning was everything, that being the best was the only way to be respected. But now, for the first time, she was starting to understand that winning wasn't the only measure of success. I will try again, Lyra said firmly. Next time, I'll be better. Ethan raised an eyebrow, impressed. That's the spirit. Want to do another round? Lyra nodded eagerly. Yes, but this time I'll win. Ethan laughed. Let's see what you've got. The next round began, and this time, Lyra approached the race with even more focus. She wasn't just playing to win, she was playing to improve, to challenge herself. The track felt less intimidating now, the obstacles less overwhelming. Each sharp turn, she responded more quickly. With each near miss, she learned something new about how to maneuver the vehicle. This time, Lyra didn't crash as often. Her movements were smoother, more confident. The finish line was just ahead, and she pushed her controller harder, urging the vehicle to go faster. Her heart pounded in her chest. She was so close. With one final perfect turn, she crossed the finish line. Lyra's eyes widened in disbelief. As she saw the screen flash with the word winner, she had done it. Ethan's voice broke through her stunned silence. You did it. I knew you had it in you. Lyra sat back in her chair, her mind spinning. She had won. For a moment, she didn't even know how to process it. The feeling of success, of triumph, was unlike anything she had ever experienced before. It was more than just beating the game. It was about conquering her own limitations. Lyra said quietly, her voice full of wonder. She looked at Ethan, her eyes filled with a new light. I understand now. It's not just about winning, it's about the journey. It's about getting better. Ethan grinned, proud of her progress. Exactly. It's about pushing yourself and enjoying the ride, even when things don't go perfectly. Lyra smiled, feeling a sense of satisfaction that was completely new to her. For the first time, she understood what it meant to let go of perfection and simply enjoy the process. The feeling was refreshing, and it left her with a sense of freedom she hadn't known before. I think I'll play again tomorrow, she said, her voice filled with excitement. And next time, I'll get even. Better, Ethan chuckled. I have no doubt you will. The days passed quickly as Lyra's visits to the station became a regular part of her routine. Each time she grew more skilled and confident, enjoying the simple pleasures of human games and challenges. She began to look forward to every new experience, whether it was a fast-paced racing game or a complex puzzle. She had never known that. Something as simple as playing a game could be so satisfying. One afternoon, Lyra arrived at Ethan's station, feeling more excited than usual. She had been practicing in her spare time, eager to show Ethan how much she had improved. She had spent hours figuring out new strategies, practicing moves, and challenging herself. Today, she was determined to conquer a new game that Ethan had shown her, a strategy game that required both quick thinking and careful planning. Ethan was already there when she arrived, setting up the game console. He looked up and saw her, approach with a confident smile. Ready to take on the challenge? Lyra's eyes sparkled with determination. I've been practicing. I'm going to win today. Ethan grinned. I'm looking forward to it. They sat down at the console, and Lyra immediately got to work, setting up her strategy. The game was more difficult than any she had tried before. It was about building resources, creating armies, and outsmarting the opponent. The complexity of it was both exciting and overwhelming, but Lyra was up for it. As the game began, Lyra focused on the screen, making quick decisions and placing her unit strategically. At first, things were going well. She felt confident in her moves, and her progress was steady. But as the game progressed, things started to take a turn. The opponent's moves became faster, more unpredictable, and Lyra found herself struggling to keep up. Her hands clenched around the controller as she stared at the screen, feeling a rush of frustration. Her plan wasn't working as she had hoped. She had never experienced this kind of setback before. Lyra had always been the one in control, always the one who had the answer. But now she was facing a challenge that was beyond her current abilities. Ethan watched her, sensing the change in her attitude. Hey, don't worry about it. Just keep playing. You've got this. Lyra took a deep breath, trying to calm herself. She had learned to enjoy the thrill of competition, but now she felt like she was losing her grip. She had never been good at accepting failure, and this game was testing her patience in ways she hadn't anticipated. "I can't seem to keep up," Lyra admitted, her voice quieter than usual. "I thought I could handle this game. I thought I was getting better." Ethan looked at her thoughtfully, his voice gentle. "It's okay to struggle, Lyra. It's part of the learning process. Not always about being the best right away." Lyra frowned, her mind racing. "But I don't like losing. I don't like not being good at something." Ethan nodded, understanding. "I get it. You're used to being in control, but sometimes the real value is in the journey. It's not about being perfect from the start. It's about what you learn along the way." Lyra's brow furrowed as she processed his words. She had always been taught that perfection was everything, that failure was to be avoided at all costs. But now, here she was, struggling with a simple game, and it was making her feel vulnerable in a way she had never experienced before. She had never been in a position where she didn't know what to do next, where her knowledge and abilities weren't enough to solve the problem in front of her. For a moment, she considered quitting the game. She could feel the frustration bubbling up inside her, the desire to stop and avoid the feeling of failure. But then she remembered what Ethan had said. It wasn't about being perfect. It was about learning, growing, and enjoying the process. With a deep breath, Lyra returned her focus to the screen. She reminded herself that this wasn't about winning or losing. It was about trying, failing, and trying again. As she played, she sank. Stopped worrying about the outcome and started paying attention to the process. She stopped thinking about perfection and started thinking about how to improve, how to do better than before. Minutes passed, and Lyra's approach shifted. She didn't panic when things went wrong. Instead, she calmly adjusted her strategy, analyzing what she could do differently. She lost some battles, but she won others. Slowly but surely, she started to make progress. Her confidence returned, not because she had won, but because she had learned to enjoy the challenge without being consumed by the need to be perfect. When the game finally ended, Lyra looked at the screen, her heart racing. She hadn't even come close. But something inside her had shifted. The sense of failure didn't sting like it used to. Instead, there was a sense of accomplishment in the effort. In the willingness to face a challenge and keep going, Ethan watched her, his smile softening. "You did great, Lyra. It's not about the score. It's about how you handle the challenge." Lyra nodded slowly, a small smile forming on her face. "I think I get it now. Winning isn't everything. It's about enjoying the challenge, learning from it, and getting better." Ethan gave her a proud nod. "Exactly." For the first time, Lyra felt a deep sense of peace. She wasn't perfect, and that was okay. The world didn't demand perfection from her. It was enough to try, to enjoy the journey, and to learn from every experience. "I'll try again tomorrow," Lyra said, her voice full of quiet determination. "I'll get better," Ethan smiled. "I have no doubt you will." Lyra walked into the station with a new energy. The past few days had been full of learning, mistakes, and growth. She no longer felt frustrated by losing or failing. Instead, she embraced the process, knowing that each mistake taught her something valuable. It was a feeling she had never experienced before, and she was beginning to like it. "Morning, Ethan," Lyra said, her voice bright. "Ready for the next challenge?" Ethan looked up from his console, surprised by the change in her tone. Had always been determined, but now there was a warmth in her voice that showed she was enjoying herself. "Good morning, Lyra. You seem excited today." "I am," she replied. "I've been practicing, and I feel like I'm finally getting the hang of this." Ethan smiled. "That's awesome. Out. What do you want to try today?" Out. Lyra thought for a moment, her eyes scanning the selection of games. "I want to try something different. Something ... fun." Ethan raised an eyebrow, intrigued by her request. "All right, let's see." He selected a new game, a simple, fun party game where players had to work together to complete challenges. It wasn't as intense as some of the other games Lyra had played, but it required teamwork and quick thinking. The game began, and Lyra looked at the instructions. It was a cooperative game where players needed to solve puzzles together and complete tasks in a limited amount of time. Lyra felt a spark of excitement. This was going to be different. There was no room for competition. Here it was all about working together. Ethan stood by her, watching as she navigated the game. Lyra, quickly, learned the mechanics of the game. She was good at figuring things out, but she realized something important. She didn't have to be perfect. In fact, it felt better when she made mistakes and had to figure out how to fix them. It wasn't about being the best. It was about enjoying the moment and having fun. The challenges in the game were silly, but fun. In one round, Lyra had to help Ethan by stacking virtual blocks in a specific order. At first, she struggled with the timing and placement of the blocks, but she didn't get frustrated. Instead, she laughed when a block fell over and the game made a funny sound. Ethan chuckled too. "It's okay. We'll just try again. No need to rush." Lyra nodded, feeling lighter than she ever had before. This was so different from the strict, competitive training she had experienced back home. In her world, mistakes were not tolerated, and winning was the only goal. But here, she felt free to enjoy the game without the pressure of being perfect. By the time the round ended, they had completed the task successfully. Lyra looked at the screen, then at Ethan, and smiled. "You did it." "You did great," Ethan said, his voice warm with pride. "It's amazing how far you've come. You're not just playing to win anymore. You're playing to have fun." Lyra paused, taking in his words. He was right. In the beginning, she had approached each game with the mindset of winning, of showing that she was the best. But now, she realized that it wasn't about being the best, it was about enjoying the experience and learning along the way. She had let go of her need for perfection, and in doing so, she had found a new kind of freedom. "I've learned so much," Lyra said, her voice soft. "Not just about the games, but about myself." Ethan smiled, sensing the change in her. "I'm glad you feel that way. It's what I was hoping for. It's not about being the best at everything. It's about embracing the process and enjoying the ride." Lyra nodded slowly, thinking deeply about what Ethan had said. In her world, there was always pressure to be the best. Her people were proud, and they valued strength, intelligence, and efficiency. But now, as she sat in front of the game console, she realized that she didn't have to be perfect to be happy. She didn't have to be the strongest, the fastest, or the smartest. She could simply be herself, and that was enough. Ethan stood up and stretched, glancing at the screen. "So what's next?" Lyra grinned. "I think I'm ready for something more challenging. I want to push myself further. But this time, I'm going to enjoy it, no matter what happens." Ethan laughed. "I like that. Let's do it." They dove into the next challenge together, but this time, Lyra didn't feel the pressure to be perfect. She didn't care about winning or losing. She cared about the fun, the teamwork, and the joy of trying something new. And as the game continued, she realized that this was what it truly meant to be, free to let go of pride and embrace the simple joy of playing. For the first time in her life, Lyra wasn't trying to prove anything. She wasn't trying to be the best. She was just enjoying the moment, embracing the challenge, and learning to appreciate the process. It was a lesson she would carry with her for the rest of her life. As the game ended, Lyra turned to Ethan, her eyes shining. "Thank you, Ethan. I didn't realize how much I needed this." Ethan smiled. "You don't have to thank me. You've done all the hard work. I'm just glad to see you enjoying yourself." Lyra nodded, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. She had come a long way from the alien who first walked into the station, unsure of what to expect. Now she understood that the most important thing wasn't perfection, it was enjoying the journey. "Learning from every step and growing along the way, I think I'll play again tomorrow," Lyra said, her voice filled with excitement. "And I'll keep getting better." Ethan grinned. "I'm sure you will." Lyra walked into Ethan's station, her steps lighter than before. The last few days had been a revelation for her. She had discovered that life didn't have to be a constant chase for perfection. She was starting to appreciate the joy of simply playing, of failing and trying again, and of enjoying the process without the need to always win. She had come a long way since her first visit to the station, when she had been skeptical of human games. Back then, she had thought them silly, unimportant. But now, they had become a way for her to grow, not just in skill, but in understanding herself. Ethan looked up from his console when he saw Lyra approach. "Hey Lyra, you're here early today." Lyra smiled, the warmth in her expression a clear sign of her excitement. "I've been practicing," she said. "I think I'm finally starting to get the hang of it." Ethan raised an eyebrow, impressed. "You've really been working hard. What's on your mind today?" "I want to try something new," Lyra replied. "Something that's a little more... fun." Ethan chuckled. "Well, I think I have just the thing for you." He quickly set up a new game, one that wasn't as serious as the others. It was a simple game, but it required teamwork, coordination, and a bit of luck. It was all about passing a virtual ball between players, trying to keep it in motion without letting it drop. The game was lighthearted and silly, but Lyra was intrigued. It was a game that wasn't about skill or precision, but about working together and having fun. As the game began, Lyra found herself laughing at the ridiculousness of it all. She had to move quickly, try to predict where the ball would go and catch it before it fell. It was hard to keep the ball in the air, and often it bounced out of control, causing both of them to burst into laughter. For the first time, Lyra wasn't focused on winning or losing. She was focused on enjoying the game. "This is fun," she admitted, her eyes sparkling with a newfound joy. "I've never played anything like this before." Ethan smiled, happy to see her enjoying herself. Sometimes the simplest games are the best. It's not about winning or losing. It's about just having fun. Lyra nodded, her smile widening. "I get it now. All this time I've been so focused on being perfect, on being the best. I didn't understand that there's value in just enjoying the moment." Ethan paused, considering her words. That's the beauty of it. We get so caught up in trying to be the best, we forget to enjoy life as it is. It's okay to be imperfect. It's okay to fail. What matters is how you grow from those experiences. Lyra's eyes softened as she thought about his words. She had spent so much of her life trying to prove herself, trying to be the strongest, the smartest, the most capable. But here, in this human world, she had learned that it wasn't about perfection. It was about learning, growing, and enjoying. The journey, as they continued playing, Lyra became more comfortable with the game. She wasn't worried about making mistakes anymore. She laughed when the ball flew off in the wrong direction, and she cheered when they successfully kept it in the air for several passes. It was a lighthearted game, but it taught her something important sometimes. The best way to grow was to let go of the pressure to be perfect. The game ended, and both Lyra and Ethan sat back, breathing heavily from the fun they had just shared. "That was amazing," Lyra said, her voice full of joy. "I never realized how much I was missing by always focusing on being perfect." Ethan grinned. "I'm glad you're starting to see it. Perfection is overrated. It's the effort, the learning, and the fun that matter most." Lyra nodded, a deep sense of contentment settling within her. She had come to the station to understand human games, but now she realized she had learned something far more valuable. She had learned that she didn't have to be perfect, and that it was okay to let go of the need to always succeed. The idea of failure didn't scare her anymore. She had failed many times in the games, but each time she had learned something new. Each mistake had made her better. And she was beginning to appreciate the process of trial and error. Lyra turned to Ethan, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you for showing me this. You've helped me understand something I've never realized before. Life doesn't have to be perfect to be worth it." Ethan smiled, feeling proud of her. "You did all the hard work. You learned to enjoy the journey. That's what matters." Lyra sat quietly for a moment, taking in everything she had learned. She had come to this station as a visitor, an outsider, but now she felt different. She had learned that there was more to life than being the best. There was value in the small moments, enjoying the things that didn't require perfection. "I think I'll play again tomorrow," Lyra said softly. "And the day after that, and the day after that," Ethan chuckled. "I have no doubt. You'll keep getting better." Lyra smiled, feeling more at peace with herself than ever before. She wasn't the same alien who had walked into this station weeks ago. She was someone who had learned to embrace imperfection, to enjoy the process, and to appreciate the simple joys of life. And as she looked at Ethan, she knew that she had found something far more valuable than any game. She had found a new way of seeing the world, one that was full of possibility, growth, and most importantly, fun. Lyra's visits to Ethan's station had become a regular part of her life. The simple games, the laughter, the challenges, they had all taught her lessons she never expected to learn. As each day passed, she felt a change within herself. She no longer thought about being the best. Instead, she focused on enjoying the experience, embracing the fun, and learning from the process. Today, as Lyra entered the station, she felt a sense of peace. The weight of her previous expectations had lifted. She was no longer burdened by the need for perfection. She had learned that it was okay to fail, and that every setback was just another chance to grow. "Hey, Lyra," Ethan called out, looking up from his console with a friendly grin. "Ready to play again?" Lyra smiled back at him. "Definitely. I've been practicing, and I think I'm getting better. But I'm more excited to just enjoy the game this time." Ethan nodded, clearly pleased with her attitude. "That's the spirit. Let's see what you've got today." They sat down at the console, and Lyra took a moment to look over the games available. She was no longer in a rush to jump into something competitive. She wanted to enjoy the moment, to savor the challenge without worrying about winning or losing. After a few seconds of thought, she picked a cooperative puzzle-solving game that required teamwork. Lyra had come to appreciate the value of working together, sharing the experience rather than focusing on individual success. Game involved both players moving through a maze, solving puzzles, and helping each other along the way.
Lyra was excited to try it, knowing it wasn't about being the best,
but about working as a team and having fun together. The game started, and the two of them were immediately thrown into a series of mazes, each filled with obstacles and challenges. Lyra was surprised by how much she enjoyed the process. There was no rush, no need to compete. The game required communication, teamwork, and patience. They had to work together to figure out how to move forward, sometimes laughing at the silly mistakes they made along the way. At one point, Lyra miscalculated a move, and she almost sent them both into a dead end. Normally, she would have felt frustrated, but instead, she laughed, realizing that mistakes were part of the fun. Ethan grinned at her. "It's okay, we'll figure it out together." The maze felt less like a challenge and more like an adventure. It was a new experience for Lyra, one that was completely different from the competitive games she had tried before. The pressure to succeed had faded, replaced by the joy of working as a team. They communicated easily, helping each other navigate the obstacles and solve the puzzles. When they finally reached the end of the maze, both of them felt a sense of satisfaction, not because they had won, but because they had enjoyed the journey. "That was amazing," Lyra said, her voice filled with genuine excitement. "I've never had so much fun working together like that." Ethan smiled. "I'm glad you enjoyed it. Sometimes it's about more than just the game. It's about the people you play with." Lyra nodded, her thoughts drifting back to the way she had approached life before. She had always been focused on being the best, on proving her worth to others. But now she understood that life wasn't about being perfect. It was about connecting with others, sharing experiences, and learning from each moment. "You've taught me something I never knew," Lyra said quietly. "I've spent my whole life trying to be perfect. But now, I see that it's okay to just be me. I don't have to be the best at everything. I just need to enjoy the ride." Ethan looked at her, his eyes filled with understanding. "Really proud of how far you've come. You've learned to enjoy the journey, and that's the most important lesson of all." Lyra smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. She wasn't the same person who had first arrived at the station. She had learned to embrace imperfection, to let go of her need to always be in control. And, most importantly, she had learned to enjoy life for what it was, full of moments to experience, challenges to face, and people to connect with. As she sat next to Ethan, she realized that her time on the station had changed her in ways she hadn't expected. She had come to understand the value of simplicity, the joy of play, and the beauty of letting go of the need for perfection. You know, Lyra said, looking over at Ethan, I think I'm ready to go back to my people. But I'm not going. To be the same person who left? Ethan raised an eyebrow, curious. What do you mean? Lyra smiled, her voice full of conviction. I'm going to show them that it's okay to fail, to learn, and to have fun. I don't need to be perfect to be happy. Ethan grinned, proud of her. I think they'll learn a lot from you. Lyra nodded, her heart light. She had discovered something important on this station. She had learned that life wasn't about being the best. It was about enjoying each step along the way. And that was a lesson she was eager to share with the rest of the galaxy. As she left the station that day, Lyra felt a sense of peace she had never known before. She had found a new perspective on life, one that was full of joy, growth, and the freedom to be herself.